Hello and welcome back to the Nature of Education podcast. You are back with me, Yvonne Doherty, and this week I am joined by the incredible Christopher Carolan. So Chris is one of our recently graduated Wolf Academy trained facilitators, as well as many other things. So I'd love to chat to you a little bit about that, Chris, and then all the other incredible things that you have going on. So I suppose, firstly, what brought you towards the Wolf Academy training?
Well, me and Cormac used to walk home from school together, and I've really seen his transformation through what he's done with Wolf Academy, and it's been very inspiring to see his journey, I suppose. And I worked as a TEFL English teacher for many years in Southeast Asia, in Spain and in Ireland as well. And I really love the aspect of facilitating rather than teaching as well. And so I kind of wanted to step more further back into that role. I've been out many years gaining kind of experience in many fields. And I feel like now is my kind of time to step forward and more into that facilitator role of sharing with my voice the experience that I've gained through many experiences.
Amazing. And I know there is a lot of colour to the many different things that you do. There's a lot of creativity. There's a lot around permaculture. There's a lot, even you're a poet, you're a musician, like crafts, many different aspects to it. So what are some of those experiences that you'd love to share with young people, or does it tap into those different areas?
Yeah, I guess I was very confused growing up, and I had a lot of traumas, like most people do, that stem from their childhood. And I really, really struggled with that. And through that, I got involved in a lot of like alcohol, drugs, you name it. All of the bad things. I tried them all. None of them helped. And it was only until I started expressing myself through creativity and through the creativity, then finding that deeper connection with nature, that I was actually able to come back into this happier, healthier person. And really it's about the journey. It's not about the end product. It's about finding something that you love, and journeying with that and seeing how it evolves. It's not about creating the poem or the song or the book or the painting or the sculpture. It's about the journey you're on while you're creating. That's the real medicine. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, I finished this now, and that's great. You're like, okay, this is something that I can say, oh, it's healed within me now. But it's so beautiful to be in that journey, and that's kind of what I want to share with young people as well.
I love that. What is it about that journey for you that makes it so medicinal?
To be in a creative state, it's the closest thing to God for me. That's the closest thing to religion or like true spirituality, is to be in that creative state, because you're in like a flow state where you're channeling something that is coming through you. All of these things are just floating there in the air. And then suddenly you open yourself to the possibility of creating something new, and it comes through you like a channel. And you give your input to that, and suddenly there's this new thing in the world that had never existed before. And it's because you as a person have been able to open yourself up. And it's because of our traumas as well. It's our traumas that create these things. Through that healing, we are able to bring something new into the world. And I just think that's really such an incredible, beautiful process. And it makes all of the trauma and all of the pain worth it in the end, to be able to transform through our inner fire these things that have happened to us,
Yeah, so beautifully said. And it sounds so magic when you describe it like that, because I know that feeling of like being that open channel and things are just coming through, and then suddenly something exists that didn't exist before. And it's incredible to see that come into life. And I'm curious, how did you move towards creativity? Is that something that was always in you, or did it kind of extinguish that fire for a while? How did you come back to it?
It's a really good question. I always wanted to be creative, I guess. The first kind of creativity that, like, I always read books. I was always a voracious book reader when I was a young man, and I had a deep connection with nature. You know, like when I was a boy, like it was always me gone for hours during the day with my dogs out in the fields, out in the forest, adventuring around and having the crack. So I always had that deep connection with nature. And then, and I always read a lot of books. Um, an artist was always a very, obscure thing to me. I never knew really what an artist was. Like a rich person that just had loads of time on his hands. So I didn't really understand what that was. So I didn't know where to put all of these things that I was learning.
Mm.
Um, but then I was living in Barcelona and I started going to these poetry open mics. I always wanted to write poetry, but I never had the courage
Mm.
or felt like it was something that I would be good at, you know? So I started going to these poetry open mics in this little dingy bar in a basement in a place called Pub Limerick, which wasn't an Irish bar at all. It was just called Pub Limerick. I don't know why it was called. And it was every Thursday night. And I went religiously. It was like going to church.
Mm.
And I think it was the first time that I went. And I was so inspired by people standing up and just sharing their stories and sharing their poetry that the very first night as I was walking home from the pub, it was like a half an hour walk, half drunk, like, well, it was probably more than half drunk, but this just poetry started coming out of me and I started writing it down and then I started sharing it. And then a funny thing happened when I started sharing poetry is that, like, I started realizing how chaotic my life was. You
Mm.
know, once I started the healing process, which was the creativity, I was like, oh my God, what have I been doing? And with that, I started drinking more because I was trying to suppress it until I got to the point where I couldn't drink or do any more drugs. And then I started doing breath work. And then I started exercising more. And then I started, you know, being like looking around, being like, you know, your consciousness comes in and you're like, what is this land that we have around us? You know? How do we connect to that? You know? And so that was 8 years ago.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, I'd say a lot has happened since then. So it sounds like the creativity created clarity in a sense. It's like you could start seeing clearly now, and not only within
Mm.
yourself and your own life situation, but then the world around you suddenly became clearer, like you became more aware of the situation you're living within as well, or the environment that you happen to dwell within as well. It's interesting how it kind of opens up your eyes in that way.
Yeah, I don't think I started really living until
Mm,
I started being creative. You
interesting. Yeah.
know, I was
Yeah.
just surviving. And I feel like once I started being creative, I really started living and expressing my experience. The inner world started to come and be projected externally, you know.
Mm, yeah. Amazing. Love that. Yeah. Just even coming to life then within yourself through connecting to that. And like creativity is one of, we have these 6 C's that we position as like ways home to well-being, and creativity is one of them. So obviously we think it's important in terms of well-being, but I'd be curious, how do you see creativity connecting to awakening more aliveness or being instrumental for well-being?
Well, if we are not creating, then we are just consuming.
Mm.
And if we are just consuming, well, then what are we doing? You know, we're only living a half life, you know, so if we're just taking in and not putting anything back out, what are we doing? We're not actually living, you know, we're a septic tank. You know? Whereas when you start putting back out, you know, that's you become a forest. You know what
Mm.
I mean? You
Good
start.
alternative.
Sorry.
That's a good alternative to septic tank.
Yeah, it's much better being a forest than it is a septic tank. You know what I mean? So that's what, like, I think I'd much rather be a forest, and it might
Mm.
start with just a few flowers, it might just start with like a little bit of grass, and then eventually, oh, there's a tree there. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Okay, that poem is a tree for me. That's going to help me build. And then from that tree, you're able to plant other trees, and you steadily grow into this beautiful forest, where
Mm.
once was just something that just consumed. You're becoming alive in that way.
Oh,
So
that's
that's
that.
the way where I'm able to express myself through patterns that I find in the landscape as well. And that's where the kind of nature connection comes in to the creativity.
Mm. Yeah, and I feel like it is inherent in our nature as well to create. Like that's a natural inclination that we have, and I think a lot of it has been, as I said, maybe
Mm.
suppressed or we're disconnected from it, or I feel like now we are so conditioned for consumption that there's a lot more consuming happening than creating. Do you feel like that's negatively impacting people, just the level of consumption that we live in now?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it has made us lethargic.
Mm.
We have been inundated with information. We have been inundated with food. We have been inundated with, like, living, you know. It's like we do live in a time where you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. There's no channel anymore. Once you don't have limits, it's like pouring water into a bucket with no end.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? If you don't understand your limits, if we have no limits, it's just chaos.
Mm.
So, like, I say a lot when I'm designing food forests or landscapes, it's about creating balance between the structure and the chaos. It's about
Mm.
channeling the chaos, and that's where the real magic comes in, you
Mm.
know? So when we just consume, 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 we don't know where to put it, then we're full of anxiety. We're depressed because we've got all of this thing and we have no tools in which to deal with it. You know what I mean? So, like, the inputs are great. It's great that we're getting so much information and we've got so much abundance of food. It's amazing. We're living in a time that never existed ever, anything like it. But it's learning how to deal with it now. And yeah, I think coming back to the land, reducing our consumption of this stuff, and more creativity is a real answer to to dealing with this problem that seems massive in our life.
Mm. Yeah, I love how you've distilled that down, though. It's like it's utilizing the chaos and bringing order to it, and then you're getting the fruits of what it is, because there is nourishment there, but it's like it's hard to actually get the benefit of it when it's. I just imagine it just being like splayed everywhere. It's not really getting to where it needs to go.
It's like if you imagine like an apple tree with too many branches, you're not getting any fruit off it.
Mm.
You might get one or two fruits, but they might be measly. But then when you prune it down, you get an abundance. You know what I mean? And we kind of have to prune to just a couple of branches of what we're actually consuming and giving out here.
Yeah. Amazing, yeah. And you mentioned there, like, obviously, nature is a beautiful thread that's weaving through everything. And coming back to the land is something that I hear people saying often. I'm wondering, what does that mean to you? What is coming back to the land for you?
Means many things, but I think just a lot of it is just sitting and just being in a landscape, and connecting with that landscape and being quiet in the landscape and actually, like, looking at it, observing it, understanding its patterns, knowing what grows, just getting, like, how would you get to know a person? You'd ask
Mm.
them questions, wouldn't you? You'd spend time with them. You know what I mean? You'd give them gifts. They give you gifts. You know what I mean? And just, you treat it the same way as you would any other living person.
Mm.
And I think we've forgotten how to do that
Yeah.
in many ways, you know.
Mm.
And I think this is where limits come in as well, again, because you cannot know the whole world. You know what I mean? It's like trying to know uh, every person in the world. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So it's like coming back to the land is limiting yourself in that way of being like, okay, this is the landscape that I am going to choose to consciously know and understand. This is going to be my partner. This is going to be my partnership, you know?
Mm.
And like, it took me a long time to understand that as well, because I love traveling. I
Mhm.
absolutely love traveling. And though I will always still travel and like visit other landscapes, which will like actually inform me a little bit more about my landscape in a funny way because of that juxtaposition. Like here in the Boyne Valley is where I've kind of situated myself now. And just to know its patterns, to know its mythology, to know the songs, just to sit here and be with the landscape and the trees and the birds, you know, it's very inspiring because the land is just an extension of our body. You know, if you look into any real, you know, serious theological or spiritual writer, they'll just say our body is clay. You know,
Mm.
that's all it is. It's just clay. And so when we connect to the land around us, we are actually getting to know our bodies on a greater level. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I do fully believe that our external world is just our internal world reflected externally.
Mhm.
So when we get to know the plants that are around us, then as well, we're like, oh, there's a little wildflower. And then you get to know that wildflower. It's like almost getting to know a little wildflower within yourself. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And it's just that such a deep connection. You know, it's very, very, it has been a beautiful journey for me to
Mm.
understand those things.
Yeah, and it's such an incredible teacher as well, like that, to even get to know ourselves better. And then I feel like the more we understand something, the more respect we may have as an extension of that, or the way we treat it and care for it changes. And like that, getting more familiar with the land that you're in, it sounds like you're doing incredible things with that land and with the space that you have. What way are you interacting with the land now that you know it a bit better?
I haven't really changed much now, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I guess I've become more of a steward.
Mm.
I've just recently built this cabin
Lovely.
here, and it's in my great grandfather's orchard, which I grew up in this orchard. And so I've become more of a steward of the land, more of a protector. And
Mm.
I've become a bit more like a tree, you know, in which I don't move around as much. You know, a tree stays there be there for 200 years, but it changes the landscape around it by just being there. You know,
Mm.
it gives shelter to other little trees. You know, things start expanding from around it. So like in that way, I'm starting to create more cultural events
Mm.
in the Boyne Valley. Like, for example, I do foraging walks around here, giving people more knowledge about the surrounding in this area. Um, and then we're meeting once a month down by the river where we're playing music, sharing food, you know, skill sharing and just swimming and enjoying the space, you know. There's a lot to be said for laughter in an
Mm.
ecosystem, you
Oh, yeah.
know, like creating song in an ecosystem. The land wants to hear song, it wants to hear laughter, it wants to hear joy. Uh, and I feel that deeply because you're just adding another frequency to the landscape. And if you're bringing in a joyous, authentic frequency, that's the biodiversity that we need to bring.
Mm.
That's what the human beings can provide to a landscape that no other animal can.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's such a beautiful way of thinking of it. And it just resonates as truth. It's like, yeah, of course, that makes so much sense. And so lovely to be bringing that together. So it sounds like through your own connection, you've naturally wanted to connect with others and to bring others along on this path. From what I'm hearing, how are people responding to the foraging walks and getting to know the land a bit better?
Yeah, really, really well. I feel like there's a real hunger out there for it. And most people are walking away and being like, I need to go and sit with that. you know, or like they're just like, yeah, let's do this every month, you know, and
Mm,
it's mostly people that come in from cities as well that are just like, this is just a whole different world for me, you know.
mm,
Um, so it's the people have been responding really well. It's slow, but I kind of like that because big things grow slow,
yeah.
and and it's solid. You know, people are like, we're steadily having more people every month coming and telling other people, and it's really funny because it hasn't been really like through, usually it's through social media and things like that is where you promote these things. But it hasn't been, I've been getting no people at all through social media to join. It's all been word of mouth.
Mm.
And that has been really interesting because I've been putting all of this energy into the social media and the things, and I'm actually, it's not giving me anything back. So it's just organically happening, which is the way I would rather it to happen.
Mm,
And
nice.
so I've just abandoned the social media and those things.
Fair, yeah. Just
So
feels like
yeah,
another aspect of like coming back to our roots is what I feel like a few things are, and even like that shift away from social media and people just sharing things that they find to be of benefit with each other. I think that's such a lovely, like you say, organic way of things growing, and that slowness as well. I think everything doesn't have to be like so quick, like we're getting used to it being, or like that the consumption being so immediate. But for things to slowly grow, I think we even appreciate it more. There's more value to those kind of journeys as well.
exactly. And like consistency has been important for me. That was kind of like my intention of the year
Mm.
is to remain consistent because I have the capacity to be chaos. You know, I'm Sagittarian, you know, and a very fiery person, so I have a total capacity to be very chaotic and erratic.
Yeah.
But my but with consistency and just with constantly showing up, you just them building blocks just happen. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And it just again, it's creativity and action in a very different way. It's just like showing up, consistent, building, you know, and it's been so much more joyful, you know,
Yeah.
so much more joyful to just honor that word. And like, it's very easy for us to let self doubt and judgment come in. And that's generally what stops consistency and to
Mm.
jump from one thing to another thing. Um, but it's a constant hurdle, you know, every time you consistently achieve something, it's another hurdle overcome and more deeper self belief
Yeah.
um, gained.
Yeah, 100%. And it's even like that courage that you mentioned there earlier. It is tapping into that and like that, using that to overcome some of those doubts or fears or things that might come up. When it comes to like you mentioned food forests there and designing, and there's a permaculture side to it as well, isn't there? That you're growing food, or what way does that look for you?
So like uh, that's something I got into in in Spain. Well, I was learning about it here in Ireland, and then I moved back to Spain for a while, and I studied a little bit more about permaculture in Spain and Portugal. Um, Maybe I'll just say what permaculture is, just in case
Yeah,
people
that'd be
don't
good.
know.
Yeah.
So, permaculture is a system of design that was created by David Holmgren and Bill Mollison back in the 80s. David Holmgren was a student of ecology, and Bill Mollison was his mentor. And so, basically, they were looking at okay, so there's the permaculture, and then there's horticulture. Horticulture means garden culture, right?
Hmm.
Hort and culture. And then there's agriculture, which means agri, which is just fields and culture. So they were like, all right, how do we expand beyond these things? And so they started looking at different cultures from around the world, like different indigenous cultures from around the world and the techniques they used. And they were able to take the techniques from different cultures around the world, kind of siphon it into a set of ethics principles and techniques and create this design system. So through that, I've been working with, so the ethics are people care, earth care and fair share. So
Mm.
if you take care of the people, you take care of the earth, you have this abundance that's created. And the fair share element is kind of the economic element, which you would reshare back into the earth and back into the people. So to keep it evolving again organically with, as minimum controls as possible, to allow that flow. It's channeling the chaos again, that's structuring the chaos. So through that, through permaculture, I am working with community gardens, with private landowners, with again going into schools and doing talks about it, and doing foraging walks, and just teaching them teaching people how to connect with the land, growing food that is the most regenerative way possible, to achieve a long-term, regenerative culture on a landscape. Private landowners as well, who just want to go in, who just want to do the best for their land and the best for themselves and the best for their family. We all want to have a beautiful landscape, a paradise in which our family grows up, where there's just abundance of good, clean, healthy food and water. So yeah, that's kind of the work I am doing with permaculture.
Amazing, yeah. And it might be self-evident, but I'm going to ask anyway. Why does this work matter so much to you?
Why does this work matter so much to me? I just think it's the right thing to do. It gives me a good framework to work within, and it's something that has been used for thousands and thousands of years. And I feel like in the last generation or two, we lost a lot of that knowledge. It's something my great grandfather would have known. Like the land that I'm sitting in now is like there's apple trees and raspberries and gooseberry bushes that he planted that I'm still eating from. You know what I mean? And it's that continuity and that bringing back of empowering people to create their own culture.
Yes.
I think that's what makes it very important for me. So it's more bottom up creativity of the culture around you rather than top down control and regulation, so it's re-empowering the people at the bottom to come back. Like the prime directive of permaculture is to take full responsibility for yourself and the future of your children. That's the prime directive. You know what I mean? So like, I think that taking that sovereign responsibility is very, very important. And I think it's just super empowering for people, because a lot of people don't even remember that they can have full responsibility for themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's very empowering. Just that little bit of knowledge.
Yeah. I feel like there's so much in what you just said that I'm like, oh, all of these things are so relevant and so like on so many different levels. Because even that idea of like what the work that we're doing at Wolf Academy as well, like empowering young people, but like that to create their own culture and to create their own sense of who they want to be or the life that they want to live and how they want to show up to that. But even to, becoming very much the way we're approaching it is to create the conditions for them to thrive. So really in the soil, in the like deeper levels where you want to get that right. So then they can grow and flourish and that their roots are strong, as opposed to coming in and trying to like that prune what's there. It's like, no, we want to really get into the roots of things and design it so that it makes sense for them. There was a lot in that and I was like, where do I even go? But I think that sense of responsibility as well. I love the word responsibility, but I definitely didn't always. And I think responsibility like that, maybe in the way that we've grown up, we haven't had a strong relationship with it, or some people are a bit allergic maybe to taking responsibility. What do you see the benefits of people taking more responsibility over their lives being? I suppose empowerment is a big one that you mentioned there, but is there more to that?
I think again it comes back to our limits. We've been grown up and we've like, this is something that I've had a lot of anger over, that I've had to deal with myself, is the conditioning that we have been subjected to growing up. And we've been like conditioned to not want responsibility. Responsibility is a bad thing. And the more responsibility we can actually hold as people, the more empowered we are. Do you understand? Because like the more we can hold, the more empowered we are. So if we can take on more responsibility, we can take on, we become responsible for ourselves, we become sovereign within ourselves. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
If we have zero responsibility, we're acting like children. Children can be easily manipulated. Children can be easily controlled. Children will always eventually do what they're told. You know what I mean? We act as children. But when we act as living men and women, grown living men and women, we will do what we want to do, what we feel is right. And there's a strength to that. But with that strength, there's the taking of responsibility for our actions in every way. You know, it's not just, it's taking responsibility for what we've done, you know, and seeing that we have maybe not done good things in our lives. You know, I could go through my whole life blaming people for things they've done to me. But when I take responsibility for that, that's me taking my power back.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It's really empowering me and saying, okay, they did that, but why did I let them? And like, what in me allowed that situation to become that situation?
Yeah.
And it's just an incredibly powerful thing. Incredibly powerful. Taking full responsibility for oneself and everything around them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. I think it's one of the most important shifts maybe we can make. And in coaching, the way I learned it was like being above or below the line. So you're either at cause or at effect, like this is happening to me or I am happening to it, or this is happening from me kind of idea, where when you take responsibility, you're putting yourself back in the position of power and choice in your life, which I think a lot of us maybe have outsourced to someone who we believe has more authority or intelligence or whatever than us, that we just learn to give our power away or like allow someone else to take control over our lives, which is where we miss out on so much. And even that idea of responsibility being like our ability to respond, that we can consciously respond to things as opposed to just reactive, that like unconscious reactivity and blaming and pointing fingers and all of that, I think is causing so many issues on like the wider frame and in smaller communities and things like that as well. What do you think are the ripple effects of people living with more responsibility?
I think the ripple effect of people living with more responsibility is the action of bringing more authenticity into the world. Because when you take responsibility, you everything around you depends on you. You know what I mean? So you have to be creative in that. You know what I mean? Because you've only got so much resources. So you end up creating beautiful, authentic things around you. And it's not anybody else dictating to you what you have to do or putting a regulation on what you have to do. It's you doing it because you think that's what's right. You know what I mean? So, and they say that authenticity is the highest frequency we can attain as human beings, is to be fully authentic in our lives. And if we take full responsibility for everything, ourselves and everything around us, if one person does it, and then another person does it, and then another person does it, you know, we've got a whole landscape of authenticity. It's just a massive, you know. And then, like you said, at the moment, a lot of people are outsourcing their responsibility to their parents, to their teachers, to the government. And once you stop outsourcing that responsibility and blame, like our teachers, the government, our parents are generally people we blame for shit, right? You did this to me.
Yeah.
But when we take back that responsibility, that's retaking back our power. You know, completely retaking back our power, empowering ourselves and saying, right, these people are who they are, but I'm going to take responsibility for performing in the best way that I can in this life.
Yeah. What do you think makes that difficult for people to embrace?
Putting limits on themselves. Nobody wants to be limited.
Mm.
Everybody wants to do everything. Everybody wants to have all of the money. Everybody wants to have, you know, all of the power. But if you humble yourself and put them limits on yourself and be like, right, no, this is what I've got. This is what I'm working with. That's when you get the real power.
Mm.
Yeah. And take responsibility for what you can. And then, like, by taking responsibility for yourself, you become more empowered in yourself and it expands then. And
Yeah.
you can have you can have responsibility for a home or a dog, or you know what I mean. The more responsibility you can take, actually, then the more power you can have in this
Mm.
world. You know, the more strength you can have, not power, but strength. You know, to hold more things.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that?
Yeah, no, beautifully said. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I feel like it really does expand your capacity, and like that, it initiates you into maybe more resourcefulness. Maybe, as you said, authenticity springs from that place as well, which is beautiful to make that connection. I love how that came together, and then you're inspiring others because inspiration has also been a bit of a thread through you seeing people doing certain things, or like that standing up and maybe saying a poem, or the way that that can influence other people is just creating more conscious change throughout communities and seeing how that shows up. But I think, yeah, the more strength that we take back, or even the power that we're taking back, that does overflow and spill into others. And it just, I feel like it's just a more optimal way of being when you are actually like taking care of what's yours to take care of, instead of who else can I blame for this, or it is just giving yourself this mixed message of I'm so at the effect of everything else that's happening around me, which just makes you feel so small. Whereas I feel like when we step into responsibility, we're recognizing our bigness, or the space that we own, or the ground that we're standing on. We do, yeah, stand taller, I feel like. So all good things coming from there, I think.
And also like realizing what you actually have capacity for. You know, there's so
Mm,
many people that I see exhausted and burnt out because they're trying to take responsibility for more things than they're actually capable of taking responsibility for.
yes.
You know what I mean? So that's again where our limits come in, and be like just recognizing our limits and what we actually have our capacity for, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's an important point. Like, what is actually ours to carry? Because, yeah, so many people will take responsibility for everyone else's feelings and stuff, and all of the things. What are they thinking about me, and how am I doing in their regard? As opposed to even just focusing on our own stuff first, or maybe
Exactly.
exclusively, and letting go of that, what's not ours to carry, because it is burdening people unnecessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, amazing. So, reflecting on your own journey, like, you've come a long ways, you've gone lots of different places, collected lots of experiences, and it sounds like come more true to yourself as well. It sounds like you really reconnecting with yourself and allowing your true self to spill out into these different ways that you're expressing it in your creativity and you're sharing your community endeavors. If you imagine yourself back as a teenager when maybe things were more challenging, what is a message you would have liked to have given yourself, if anything, or even what you know now that you might have benefited from?
Follow your curiosity
Mm, nice.
and don't let anybody else sway you from that. Your curiosity will always, always lead you in the right path. And don't ever fear the path that curiosity will bring you down, because even though it might seem dangerous or scary, or people are telling you it's the wrong thing to do, just keep following it, and just be good to people and be good to yourself as you do it, you know?
Mm, amazing. Think you would have
Yeah.
listened?
Oh, sure, I don't listen to anyone. I might have listened. No, like that was one of the big things I missed growing up, was a mentor. And it's
Mm,
something I lament not having. And I think is something big for me stepping into the Wolf Academy as well, is that kind of mentorship role that,
mm,
like, I would love to actually help guide young people so that they won't. I really lost my 20s. You
yeah.
know, I lost my 20s, and such a beautiful time in life your 20s can be. And I don't remember most of them.
Mm,
And I don't like, it's very sad thing for me, you know, and I feel like I'm 10 years behind now, you know.
yeah.
And like I said, I only feel like I really started living when I was creative, started being creative, and that was 28, 29 years old. Like,
Mm. Yeah, I can
And
definitely relate
so
to
I don't want, I'd like to help most young people not lose their 20s.
that.
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
it's such a beautiful intention. Yeah, and it sounds like you're definitely on the right path to doing exactly that with the work that you're doing and everything that you're sharing. It's of so much benefit. And with that curiosity, is there anywhere that's leading you at the moment?
Mythology.
Mm. Tell me
Yeah,
a little
it's
bit more
just,
about
I
that.
find it fascinating how there's these patterns within mythological stories that we're actually like living out constantly in our daily lives, and on a large scale and on a smaller scale, and how much there is to be learned from mythology. Like say, oh, all of this has happened before. It's just repeating patterns. And
Yeah.
just once you get to know them patterns, you can understand the world around you so much more. And it's like, it's great. And like the power of story, you know.
Mm.
I actually believe like now, the world that we're living in now, I do believe that we're living out a new mythological cycle, because we've been coming up against so much hardship and struggle in our daily lives that it has to be mythological. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
the only
there has to be
explanation.
books written about this technological age that we're living in, and like how it's just clashing with our primordial, being of wanting to be connected to the earth.
Mm.
I really do believe we're living in a new mythological cycle, and I think it's fascinating, as difficult as it is.
Yeah, it probably definitely has some of the same themes and struggles and things like that that we've seen over and over again.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully this one ends nicely. With that though, it's funny, it reminds me of it's just even as you said earlier, like listening to the land, it's like listening to the stories, the myths, like I feel like it's all there. Like it's all already there, all the things that we need, and it's just actually like slowing down long enough so that we can hear them or we can pay attention long enough that we receive the insight and messages that are there. Is listening kind of something that you feel like has been emerging as just really key as part of all this?
Listening and remembering,
Remembering, yeah.
like I talk about like the kind of cultural revolution that Ireland is going through at the moment, the re-emergence of Irish and our mythologies, and people coming back to ancestral sites and stuff like that.
Mm,
And like, what is a cultural revolution? It's a remembering. It's a
yeah.
remembering of who we were. It's a remembering of who we are, and it's a remembering of who we're actually going to be. You know
Mm,
what I mean? It's not just from the past. It's remembering from the future as well, and it's connecting in with what's going to be our descendants. And what is their life going to look like? They say where we are now, we have connection with 7 generations in the past and 7 generations in the future. So as I'm designing, as I'm living, I'm thinking of that expansion,
mm,
and that remembering in both directions. That's what the triple spiral can be about in the Newgrange passage
mm.
chamber,
Yeah.
past, present, future.
Mm,
And it's all happening at the same time.
yeah. How's that influence how you show up day to day, if at all?
Again, it's coming back to the responsibility.
Mm.
I'm responsible for 7 generations in the future.
No pressure. Yeah. Be grand.
Like, again, it comes back to the limits. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I can't just go crazy here.
Mm,
Mm. And then the 7 generations in the past are responsible for what I'm living now. So in that, I'm able to like say, okay, well, they weren't perfect, but they did what they could
mm,
to survive when they could. So that's what I should do. So it helps me to have acceptance and forgiveness for them and for myself in what I'm doing in my day to day,
yeah.
you know. So I don't know what I'm doing. And I go into every day with that. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to do here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
Curiosity and creativity, and you'll figure it out.
exactly.
So far, so good. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think it's an interesting one to keep in mind. Just lots of words coming to mind there. Like it's the listening, it's the learning, it's the limits, and also legacy. It's like thinking of who's going to be eating from that fruit tree years in advance. You may never meet them, but you know that someone could be benefiting from what you're planting and sowing today, which is magic. And it's beautiful to even have that as a thought. And then I think that helps to take more responsibility because you're conscious of the consequences of
Mhm.
who you're being and how you're showing up and everything, which even that little nugget of being slightly more aware, I think we could all do with just like, what are the consequences of my actions today? Who am I being? Am I in integrity with who I say I want to be? And then we can all, yeah, have different actions from that place, I think.
I think there is that awareness, but then you'll come to the point where you're like, you cannot be constantly thinking about this stuff all of the time, and you have to
Yeah.
just surrender to, okay, I'm doing my best.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because you'll drive yourself. I have driven myself absolutely mad thinking about
Yeah.
all of the possible consequences. It's anxiety inducing, you know. So you're like, right, I'm just going to put out the best frequency that I can. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to try to create joy around me and
Mm,
authenticity and create what I can. And sometimes it's not enough. You know what I
mm,
mean? And that's what you're going to come to. Sometimes it just won't be enough. And you have to just accept and forgive yourself
yeah.
for that. And that's just, it's so hard.
Yeah. But important to keep in mind. Yeah. You can just do what you can with what you have. Hope for
That's
the best.
all we can do. Yeah.
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 And having that forgiveness as well. Yeah. Because I think, as you said, authenticity is like the highest frequency. So as long as you're being as true to yourself as you can, I think pretty good things are going to come from there. And if not, you can learn from them. So it's all in service to whatever you're trying to do.
Mm, exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I loved all of everything you shared. Is there anything that you might feel like I've missed or anything that you'd love to share with the few minutes we have?
Yeah. I guess something that's come very strong to me is the dreaming of the landscape, the dreaming of what we're creating together. There is a collective dreaming that's happening up there in the ether.
Mm.
And I think, you know, the more we just sit with ourselves, the more we trust that dream, the better our lives are going to be, you know, and the more we can come together. So trust the dreams that you have and just follow them, you know,
Um,
that is our highest calling in life, you know, is to trust that the dreams are going to come true if you just keep stepping into them, you
oh,
know.
love that. What a beautiful ending point. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Glad you added that
You're
in.
welcome.
If people want to find you, even though word of mouth might be working really well, but if people did want to come and find you, go for a walk or get in touch about your work, where could they do that?
Yeah, so I've got Instagram, which is Chris Samuel. And then I also have my permaculture Instagram, which is Culture Boine, which is Boyne culture in Irish, Oscuelga. So you can find me there and get in touch. I do post some things, although I'm really getting worse at being online, kind of getting happier in real life though. Yeah.
Good way to have it.
But I'm on there pretty regularly and I do respond to messages weekly,
Nice.
especially if I'm running an event or something like that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, Gaurav Mila Mahagat, Chris, thank you so much. It's been great
Thank
chatting
you
to
so
you.
much, Yvonne. That was great crack.
Thank you. And thank you guys for listening. Appreciate it very much. And I will chat to you in the next episode.
Slán.
Slán.